So is Rabanne 1 million golden oud the best 1 million? According to quite a few of you, it is. So I finally found and bought a bottle of it, and it's time to find out what it smells like. And I'm gonna give you my initial thoughts on what it smells like, usage, performance and more. But what I can say right away is that golden oud was definitely the hardest one to find. Before I begin, please do drop a like on this video. Thank you, I really do appreciate it. And make sure you hit that subscribe, and make sure you check out all the other videos I've done with 1 million fragrances. So let's see. Okay, definitely intensely peppery and spicy straight away, but 1 million golden oud opens up quite the rich, and pretty much straight away I'm getting an intense spicy dose, and I'm also picking up on quite a prominent dose of woodiness. A rich and nuanced dose of woodiness straight away, together with quite a warm dose of spiciness. And I'm not sure what it is, but pretty much straight away I got vibes of something else that I have in my collection. I can't remember, at least right now, what it is, but there's something familiar about this opening. 1 million golden oud right away is very different compared to all the others. And based on my first few minutes with it, 1 million golden oud is definitely the most niche-like 1 million. And I do like the opening, but it's definitely not my favorite kind of opening. This is really rich and intense, woodiness and spiciness, and while it's a nice opening, I do think it would have been a bit better if there would be something to sort of balance up that intense woodiness and spiciness. But like 10 minutes into it, that intense dose of spiciness starts to soften up, and in comes that oud. And that is when I feel this one actually starts to become a bit more interesting and a bit easier on at least my nose. The mids to my nose, and at least based on my first sniffs of it, is definitely something that leans more into something that is quite intensely woody. However, I do feel that its woodiness has changed quite a bit from the opening, so it feels more, perhaps not sort of a soft, but it has a softer and rounder feel to it, together with a dose of oud. So the mids, woody and oudy, together with a softer kind of spiciness to it. If you try it out, make sure you wait for it to move past the opening, because I do feel this gets a lot easier on the nose the more it goes into the dry down. So I've been waiting for the leather pretty much since I sprayed it on, and I'm finally getting it in the dry down. And the dry down, at least the initial part of it, to my nose is basically quite a prominent dose of woodiness with a focus on oud, together with a prominent dose of leather. The leather, however, has a softness to it, so even though it's quite prominent, I don't feel this is the most intense, rough or raw kind of leather. The more it dries down, the more prominent I feel the leather gets. But at the same time, I also feel the leather becomes more sort of a round and smooth. So more prominent, but also smoother. And while the oud is still prominent, I feel in the far dry down that this becomes more like a more nuanced dose of woodiness with the oud. So like a mix of woodiness with oud, instead of being more focused on the oud. The dry down is quite different from the opening, and I do feel that the dry down is the very best part of it. It's a lot smoother, easier on the nose, and overall a better composition. And it took me some time, but I finally figured it out. I think that the fragrance 1 million golden oud reminded me, at least in the opening, is Chopard Oud Malaki, but only like in the opening through a bit to the mids. When this dries down, I do feel that these two become quite different. Golden oud goes more leathery and woody in the dry down, whereas Oud Malaki has a slightly different kind of oud together with tobacco. So let's talk about the vibe here. 1 million golden oud definitely goes into something that is more classy and elegant, but at the same time sort of mysterious with a bit of sexiness to it. Golden oud is definitely 1 million going darker, more mature, more classy and elegant. But the dry down definitely has this dark and sexy vibe to it. So let's talk about compliments and mass appeal. 1 million golden oud is definitely the least mass appealing out of all the 1 millions. And the least mass appealing part of it is definitely the opening opening through to the initial part of the mids, but the dry down will definitely be something more likable to more people. So the opening least mass appealing, a bit better in the mids, but the dry down is definitely the most sort of a likable part of this fragrance. So don't expect this to be the same kind of compliment getter like some of the others are. When it comes to performance, I really gotta wear it more, but based on how it oozes from my skin and how it stays in the air around me, I definitely feel this is a fragrance that is more on the strong side. Golden Oud, at least this bottle and at least on my skin, is quite a strong fragrance, and it definitely performs better than some of the other ones. When it comes to usage, so like seasons and occasions, I do feel this leans more towards fall, winter and spring. Oudy and woody scents can be a bit sort of a tricky when it comes to warm weather. I'm gonna try this, but this will most likely not be something that I'll be reaching for on a warm summer day. When it comes to occasions, definitely when you want something that is quite classy and elegant and something that's quite different compared to most other designer fragrances out there. Special occasions for sure. Or why not spray this on the inside of your leather jacket? This wouldn't be my first choice when going on a date unless you know that the person you're going to meet up with absolutely loves leather or woody scents. So who's 1 million golden oud for? Let's make this really simple. If you usually enjoy fragrances that opens up quite intensely woody and spicy, then this might be something for you. I do feel that you pretty much gotta love the scent of leather and oud and intensely woody scents in order to enjoy this. Make sure you stay away if you usually do not enjoy quite intensely or rich woody scents, and make sure you stay away if you usually don't enjoy the scent of oud or leather. Another thing I do want to point out is that 1 million golden oud doesn't really have any noticeable kind of sweetness or something that sort of balances up that woodiness and that leather. So this is definitely not something for someone who wants a super balanced kind of scent. I could go on and on when it comes to alternatives because I absolutely love the scent of leather. However, I do want to mention Chopard Oud Malaki, which I talked about earlier in this video. Parts of the opening and a bit into the mids of Golden Oud does remind me a bit of Oud Malaki, but Oud Malaki is probably even more intensely oudy and woody, and it has quite a prominent dose of tobacco, and there's also a bit of sweetness to it that in a way makes this more nuanced than Golden Oud, and in a way slightly more mass appealing, even though I do not consider Oud Malaki to be a super mass appealing kind of scent. Another alternative is the OG Tom Ford Ombre Leather. I'm not gonna say that much about Ombre Leather. I absolutely love this fragrance, and this is really a fragrance for someone who absolutely loves the scent of leather. These two are not the same, but it's an alternative. And another alternative I thought of is Boss Bottled Parfum. I'm gonna link to my review it above, so feel free to check it out. These two are really not the same, but it's basically a mix of leather, woodiness and powderiness, and even though this has a prominent dose of woodiness and leather, there's this sort of softness and smoothness to it. It doesn't have oud though, and again, these two are not the same, but I do feel that Boss Bottle Parfum is quite an underrated scent, and I really enjoy it. So here are my final thoughts based on my first impressions of Rabanne 1 million golden oud. This is basically, when it dries down, a mix of woodiness with oud and leather, and the dry down of it is definitely my favorite part of it. This is definitely the most niche and like 1 million so far, without a single doubt. I definitely like it, and I like it a lot. And when I say that, I mean the dry down, not the opening. But based on this first impression, so who knows, this might grow on me even more later on. But based on this first impression, I do not think this is the best 1 million. But I'm happy that I bought it and really look forward to wearing it more. Now, I would absolutely love to know how you feel about 1 million golden oud. Do you think it's the best 1 million? Do you think it's the worst? Comment. Like this video if you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Make sure you hit that subscribe and that notification bell, and make sure you check out my other Rabanne videos over there.